Good morning. My name is Gregory Longini. I'm the Board Secretary of the Chicago Transit Authority. On December 9th, 2020, the Chicago Transit Board, Office of the Secretary, issued a notice of changed format of meetings of the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget and the Chicago Transit Board meeting, both scheduled for December 16th, 2020, due to COVID-19 pandemic. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker issued a disaster proclamation on November 13th, 2020, to address this emergency. Section 12 of the proclamation declares that in-person attendance of more than 50 people is not feasible in light of public health concerns. This means that Chicago Transit Authority public meetings occurring on December 16th, 2020 will take place only virtually. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's Executive Order 2020-07 is extended by his Executive Order 2020-37, as well as Illinois Attorney General guidance to public bodies on the Open Meetings Act and the Freedom of Information Act during the COVID-19 pandemic, allow for public bodies to hold public meetings electronically to prevent the transmission of December 16th. Chairman Silver, we are ready to begin the Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee meeting.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to call to order the December 16, 2020 meeting of the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. Will the Secretary call the roll?
Yes. Director Miller.
Yes.
Director Jakes.
Here.
Director Irvine.
Here.
Director Rosales.
Present.
Chairman Silva.
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum with 5 members of the committee present, and let the record show that myself and General Counsel Karen Simons are in the CTA headquarters building here at 567 West Lake Street. So we may proceed, Chairman.
Our first order of business is the approval of the committee minutes of November 18, 2020. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Directors Jakes and Miller. A motion on the minutes. Director Miller.
Yes.
Director Jakes.
Yes.
Director Irvine.
Yes.
Director Rosales.
Yes.
Chairman Silva.
Yes.
The motion is approved, sir. We may proceed.
Our next order of business is the finance report. Jeremy Fine.
Good morning, I'm Jeremy Fine, your Chief Financial Officer, and I'll be giving an overview for October. On the next page, we see system-generated revenues. We see farebox and pass totals down about $37 million. This tracks approximately what we've seen over the last several months, but slightly down to that due to the second wave of COVID starting to take effect in October. The non-farebox totals are down about $3 million, so overall down about $40 million for the month of October to our budget. On the next page, you see the year-to-date numbers, similar trajectory on the various lines. We see fare and pass totals down about $288 million. The reduced fare subsidy coming in at budget, and then non-farebox totals down about $22 million. So overall, total revenues are down about $310 million on a year-to-date budgetary basis. But again, the story, as we'll talk about in a moment, is CARES funding. CARES funding has been the critical component for us to be able to bridge the gaps that are created both here as outlined on system-generated revenues, as well as what we'll talk about in a moment on public funding. On the next page, we outline our expenses. Again, for the month of October, we've done a good job of continuing to control our expenses as best we can. This is allowing us to stretch those critical CARES dollars as far as we can into 2021. You see here for October, we see labor expenses slightly favorable to budget, as well as materials. Fuel and power continue to be a strong performer for us throughout the year. And other expenses come in favorable as well. So we end up the month of October about $6.5, slightly less million favorable to budget. You see this carrying over on the year-to-date slide as well. Year-to-date expenses We see slight unfavorability on a year-to-date basis on labor and materials, but essentially flat. Fuel and power, as I mentioned, have been very strong performers throughout the year, as is other expenses. So overall, we've saved to budget about $25 million. But if you, this helps us offset a portion of the shortfall that we saw on the revenue side. So on a net basis, on a year-to-date basis, we're negative about 285 instead of the 310 that were shortfall on revenues alone. So again, this has been a concerted effort throughout the departments here at CTA to control expenses as best we can, allowing us to stretch those critical CARES dollars as far as we can into 2021. On the next page, we outline our public funding. As you can see here, we are slightly unfavorable, but it has regained a little bit of a foothold over the months since the outbreak of COVID. So we see sales tax down about $4 million, as is PTF. The real estate transfer tax is down a little over $1 million. So we end up the month at about $9.5 million, $9.4 million down to budget. On a year-to-date basis, we see a similar trajectory on the lines, and we have a unfavorable balance on a year-to-date basis of slightly under $100 million. Again, CARES funding has been the critical component to help us bridge the gap for the shortfalls that we're seeing both on system-generated revenues as well as public funding. On the next page, we talk about CARES Act draws. As you may recall, we received $817 million of total CARES funding. We've drawn down a little over $350 million total on a year-to-date basis, or about 45%. So again, we talked about last month as part of our budget and the expectation to be able to have some of the CARES funding carry over into 2021. We're still on track for that. So again, we've been able to control expenses, allowing us to drag these CARES dollars out as far as we can. And we'll continue to do that through the remaining portion of the year as we close out November and December. On the next page, we talk about the three commodities that we purchase: fuel, power, and natural gas. We're in the process of doing RFPs for both fuel and natural gas. So once we complete those processes, we'll be able to lock in future years beyond 2022 for each of those commodities. With regard to power, we're already locked in through 2024. But again, we will look for opportunistic buys, particularly on fuel and natural gas as we move forward, as we get those RFPs set up and allow us to start purchasing in those outer years. That concludes my report for the month of October. Glad to answer any questions.
I mean, the way it looks okay that we're gonna make it okay this year. Do you feel comfortable also that we can make it?
Yes, we will continue to have CARES funding to staunch any of the shortfalls that we see with regard to system-generated revenues or public funding. It will be critical, though, for 2021 to receive additional CARES funding as we move into budget year 2021. But yes, we will be able to bridge with the CARES funding that we have received to date through budget year, calendar year 2020.
Thank you.
Director Alvarez-Rosales, any questions?
No questions, just a comment again, just really great on what is being done on the side of expenses, to be 25 million in the positive. That's a great feat, especially during these very difficult times. And then to contain with regards to the public funding so that we're spending as little as we can of it and extending it as much as possible. I have a quick question though, with regards to power, those numbers, then we've already looked at power with regards to the electrical buses. That's all included in that and what we're going to be doing with that. That spend includes that, because I know that's a couple of years out. We're already set there. So
yes. So anything with regard to novation from diesel to battery powered, electric buses, we would be novating, the costs accordingly between the budget lines.
So that's all set. Okay, great. Great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Irvine, any questions?
No questions. Thanks, Greg.
Sure. Director Jakes.
No questions.
Director Miller.
No questions.
There are no further questions on this matter, Chairman Silva, so we may proceed to agenda item number 4.
And the next order of business, since there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval? No.
Chairman Silva, we don't need to place the finance report. It's already been accepted by the board, so we can just move on to number 4, the first
Our
ordinance.
next order of business is the review of an experimental university pass, UPass program agreement with the University of Illinois at Chicago, UIC, for certain part-time students for the spring 2021 term. Jeremy and Michelle Curran.
Thank you. I'm Jeremy Fine, your Chief Financial Officer, and good morning. Today, for your consideration, I present an ordinance for an extension of the University of Illinois at Chicago, UIC, part-time UPass pilot program for the spring 2021 term. Per the pilot program, graduate and undergraduate part-time students taking between 8 and 11 credit hours are eligible to receive a UPass. UIC participated in a UPass pilot during the fall 2020 term, which was successful, and UIC expressed interest in continuing the pilot for an additional semester. Over 1,100 part-time students were issued UPasses during the fall 2020 term, and we expect a similar number in the spring. Consistent with the entire UPass program, and due to COVID-19, UPass schools are allowed to selectively enroll students that want a UPass and not the entire student population. Cost of the pilot is consistent with the full-time program and will continue at $1.25 a day. Glad to answer any questions that you may have.
How do you count it for the remote classes?
So how have we accounted for those?
I mean, you are giving the pass, okay, for people that is taking remote classes?
Yeah, so if students want to opt in to the UPass program, whether it's as part of this pilot for part-time students or full-time students, because of the pandemic, we've allowed folks to opt in. There still is a fair number of participants, both on the full-time program as well as this part-time pilot, because students, because classes have kind of evolved throughout the period. Sometimes, depending on which school you're talking about, students have still had some classes on site from time to time. They also have laboratory work as well as being able to access the libraries. So there is a need for students to be able to traverse back and forth, throughout the city to get to their schools on a regular basis. And again, we've seen tremendous support and participation in the part-time program here at UIC. Which is kind of evidence of the fact that students still are needing to get back and forth to their respective university, in this case UIC, throughout the pandemic. So, we expect that to continue through the spring semester. And again, I think that's bolstered by the fact that UIC and the students that have been participating found this a very successful program and one that they wanted to continue into that spring semester.
Good. Do we have many other universities, okay, that we don't have a plan yet? So
yes, we have a large cadre, of participants on the full-time program. We're running 2 pilots currently, on the part-time program, one with City Colleges of Chicago and one here with UIC. Because of the success of both of those programs, those part-time programs, other schools are starting to notice and are inquiring about running a pilot with them as well. So I think we'll be back to the board in relatively short order, hopefully with some additional schools that want to participate in this program as well. Obviously with the COVID situation, a lot of schools are still evaluating, things, but again, we expect to come back to the board in relatively short order with some additional schools that have expressed interest in the program.
Thank you.
Director Alvarez-Rosales.
No questions, just 1,100 is quite a few, right? That's a good number.
Yeah, we were very excited about that number, as was the school. So, again, that's been a very successful program, even in light of the current pandemic. It's been very successful and has been a big assistance to the students that need to get back and forth, as well as just providing an additional service here at CTA. So we're very excited about it.
Thank you.
Director Irvine,
No questions.
Director Jakes.
Jeremy, this program will be revisited every semester. It's nothing
Yes.
that becomes contractual.
Yeah, and eventually we will morph it into something that's longer term. But again, we're trying to feed the need of the various schools that are participating in the pilot, understand ridership trends and things like that, and then once everything kind of settles down, we'll be working on developing a longer term solution. But again, right now the pilot is working well for both the schools as well as CTA. So again, this will be extended for the spring. Again, once things settle down post-COVID, we'll be evaluating it longer term.
Great job. Thank you, Jeremy.
Director Miller, any questions?
No questions. Thanks.
All right. Chairman Silver, since there are no further questions. No, I'm sorry. That concludes the questions, Chairman Silva, for this matter.
So since there are no further questions, may I have you to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Directors Jakes and Miller. So Chairman Silva, we may now proceed to agenda item number 5.
Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance authorizing an amendment to a sublease between Sterling Rasan LLC and Chevet Inc. for property located at 120 North Rasan Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. Bill Mooney.
Bill Mooney, your Chief Infrastructure. Good morning. Staff recommends approval of an ordinance authorizing an amendment to a sublease between Sterling Racine LLC and Far Point Development LLC for property located at 120 North Racine Avenue. On August 12, 2015, the Transit Board approved a 10-year lease with Sterling Racine LLC for 84,879 square feet on the first and second floors of the CTA-owned building at 120 North Racine. On February 14, 2018, the board approved a 2-year sublease between Sterling Racine LLC and Chevet Inc., with the sublease being amended multiple times since with the latest per ordinance number 19-107 in November 2019. Sterling Racine has requested CTA's consent to amend the current sublease with Chevet, reducing the sublease to 11,775 square feet and extending the term of the sublease through January 31st, 2022. Sterling Racine will continue to be responsible for all rent and expenses as set forth in the lease agreement, including its proportionate share of the building operating expenses and all applicable taxes and utility fees. Sterling Racine is required to obtain CTA's consent prior to subleasing, which cannot be unreasonably withheld. I'll be happy to take any questions at this time.
I don't have any questions.
Director Alvarez-Rosales,
No questions.
Director Irvine,
No questions.
Director Jakes,
No questions.
Director Miller.
No questions.
Chairman Silva, there are no further questions on this matter.
Since there are no further questions, I have you to place this item on the omnibus for board approval.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Chairman Silva, we may proceed to agenda item number 5. No, I'm sorry, to number 6. Number 6, sir.
Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance authorizing an amendment to the Small Business Enterprise SBE program within the Authority Disadvantaged Business Enterprise DBE program. Tom Macon and Juan Pablo Prieto.
Good morning, directors. Juan Pablo Prieto, Director of Diversity Programs. I present for your consideration today a recommendation to adopt an amendment to the CTA Small Business Program. As a recipient of federal funds, CTA is required to operate a Disadvantaged Business Enterprise or DBE program. The DBE regulations also require each agency to include a race and gender neutral element to facilitate competition by small businesses. In 2012, CTA amended its DBE program to include a mechanism to foster small business participation, and in 2013 established a Small Business Enterprise Program to provide contracting opportunities for small businesses by setting aside certain contracts only for small businesses to bid as primes, and by having prime contractors on large construction contracts identify portions of the contract that will be subcontracted only to small businesses. CTA verifies small business enterprises, or SBEs, using the DBE criteria and size standard, except the owner's social disadvantage. All DBE firms are, by definition, small businesses and are automatically qualified as SBE firms. CTA also accepts SBE firms from Metra and PACE, which use the same SBE certification standards. Since 2013, CTA has awarded 76 SBE set-aside contracts for over $26 million, and in addition, awarded a $20 million task order-based engineering contract to 8 SBE firms. Staff recommends amending the small business program to 1, create 2 limit categories, one for blanket contracts and another for definite quantity contracts, and 2, increase the limits to $5 million per year for blanket contracts and $5 million per contract for definite quantity contracts. This will allow staff to identify and recommend more contracts for inclusion in the Small Business Enterprise Program, as we also continue to reach out to small businesses to encourage them to participate. I'm happy to answer any questions.
The DBEs that become SBEs are allowed to take loans, okay, from the government?
Yes, and in fact, we have a program called Building Small Businesses that helps firms find capital, access to capital, and has helped firms complete the paperwork and find resources during COVID as well.
So they are getting, okay, I mean, a big advantage, okay, for them, okay, to become SBE certified.
Yes, we encourage all small businesses to seek certification. Through our small business program, we're able to set aside contracts for only small businesses to compete, which gives them a chance to become a prime contractor with CTA, which helps them increase their capability and capacity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Alva Rosales.
This increase goes into place. How are you going to communicate it? What are some of the outreach work that you're going to do?
We'll continue our outreach program to let firms know that we have this program and that we've made the increase. We also communicate regularly with our small businesses through our diversity management system. So once this is, if it's approved, we will communicate that out to our small businesses through that as well.
Do you think this will help more businesses, will attract then more businesses because the opportunities are better?
Yes, we hope by increasing the limit, we're able to set aside more contracts, which gives firms opportunities to prime on these contracts and brings more firms into our small business program.
I think the other thing, Juan Pablo, that's a huge deal, and I know this as a business owner, that having on your, it's not your resume, but your capability statement that you have been a prime of something really goes a long way to open the doors to get business. Apart from CTA, then it really is a feather in your cap as a business owner, and it opens up all kinds of other opportunities then because you've been a prime. So it's a huge deal.
Yes, it tends to be a chicken and egg, right? You can't get the opportunity because you don't have the experience. This program allows firms to get that prime experience so that they can apply for larger contracts, either with us or other entities.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Irvine.
Greg, before you
I'm sorry, President Carter.
A couple of points I want to make to the questions that you were asking, and also to JP's presentation. Obviously, this will marry nicely with our business development program that we have in place currently, and that'll be another opportunity for us to get the word out about the program and the fact that part of the purpose of the business development program is to prepare people to take on CTA public contracts, and obviously not just as a sub, but also as a prime. The other thing is, in light of your comment, I'm also going to talk to our comms team about whether we can do some targeted advertising or announcements, particularly in minority-owned newspapers and others, that let people know about the program in general, but also about our desire for them to do business with CTA. I think that may also help, to your point, of getting it out in the community more. And also, I think helps us with the broader messaging about CTA is wants to welcome DB small-owned businesses to basically do business with us, and can create another avenue for JP and his team to engage businesses in this program and other programs going forward.
That'd be great. I mean, because if we're doing this type of expansion and giving more opportunities, the more people know about it, the more they can take advantage of it. So that's great.
Yes, as our former chairman used to say, bad news travels everywhere, good news travels nowhere. And this is definitely good news. So I'm going to try to make sure it travels to as many places as possible to get the word out about what we're doing.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, President Carter. Director Irvine, any questions?
No questions, but it's good work.
Thank you.
Right. Director Jakes?
No questions. Ditto what Director Irvine said.
Thank you.
And Director Miller?
No question. Good job. Good job. President Carter have really just answered my question, so thanks.
Chairman Silva, there's no further questions on.
Since there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this item in the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Director Jakes and Miller. Chairman Silva, we're finished now with the ordinances, so we may proceed to contract number A1.
Our next order of business is contract A1, a labor, materials, and equipment contract.
Any questions, Chairman Silva?
No, I don't have any questions.
Director Alvarez-Rosales?
No questions.
Director Irvine?
No questions.
Director Jakes?
No questions.
Director Miller?
No question.
Since there's no further questions, Chairman, we may proceed to contract A2.
Our next order of business is contract A2, contract for transmission rebuilding. I don't have questions.
Thank you. Director Alvarez-Rosales?
No, just a thanks to, is it Z4 Ecomat transmission for, they were at 0 dB requirement and they found a 2%. So thanks to them. Kudos to them for doing that. That's all.
Yeah, we did a little bit of pushing on that one.
Well, thanks for doing that. Sparked some creativity there, so that's always good. Thank you.
Director Irvine?
No questions.
Director Jakes?
No questions, Greg.
All right. Director Miller?
No question.
All right, since there are no further questions, Chairman Silva, we may proceed to contract B as in boy 1.
The next order of business is contract number B1, a construction services contract. I don't have a question.
Director Alvarez-Rosales, do you have questions?
No questions.
Director Irvine?
No questions.
Director Jakes?
No questions.
Director Miller?
No question.
There are no further questions on this matter, Chairman Silva, so we may proceed to contract D as in dog 1.
The next order of business is contract number D1, a planning consulting service contract. No questions.
Director Alvarez-Rosales?
What is the DBE participation on this contract?
The current participation is at 23%. We set this is an extension to while we get through the procurement of the newer contract, and we're going to be placing task order based goals on the new contract. This is one of the last contracts that still has an overall goal on the contract.
Okay, and also just a comment, I let it go by, but on contract B1 with the MidCon, all of those. So the average goal is normally 22.73 and we've achieved 42.68. So great job there too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions, Ms. Al? No.
Director Rosales, that goal achievement is also part of our efforts to try to really focus on each individual task order and set goals relative to that task order. You may recall that's a change that we made to our policy when we put the MidCon contract into place, and it was intended to achieve exactly the result that you're seeing here. It allows us to tailor the DBE expectations to each individual task order when we award them to the companies in the MidCon program.
Well, it's obviously effective, and if there's anything there we can duplicate, I'm sure you'll be doing that on other contracts. So
yes, JP would certainly let you know that we're planning to duplicate this in all similar type contracts going forward. In fact, we've already done it in a number of them. So as more of these contracts come before the board, you will see similar provisions in them to allow us to do the same approach.
That's great. That's great. Thanks.
Director Irvine, any questions?
No questions.
Director Jakes?
No questions, Greg.
Director Miller?
No questions.
There are no further questions on that matter, but hold on one second. Oh, never mind. I thought it was something that was urgent for this. There's no more questions on D1, the consulting contract. So Chairman Silva, we may now proceed to contract number G as in girl 1.
That's correct. Our final order of business today is contract number G1, a software licensing, maintenance, and support contract. What is the participation of DBEs in this one, Juan Pablo?
This contract is for licensing of software, so there are no subcontracting opportunities here. So we were not able to place a DBE goal on this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Director Rosales?
No questions.
Director Irvine?
No questions.
Director Jakes?
No questions.
Director Miller?
No questions.
There are no further questions, Chairman, so we may proceed to number 7A.
Since there are no further questions on the contracts, may I have leave to place all 5 contracts on the omnibus?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Jakes and seconded by Director Miller. Chairman Silva, we may proceed to number 7B.
Since there is no further business to come before the committee, may I have a motion to approve the omnibus and recommend the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
The motion is moved by Director Jakes and seconded by Director Miller. I'll now take a roll call vote. Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Irvine?
Yes.
Director Rosales?
Yes.
Chairman Silva?
And finally, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Excuse me, Chairman Silva. Do you need to vote on the motion?
Sorry.
We didn't get your vote.
Is
Yeah,
there is
yeah,
no
yes.
further business to come before the committee?
Chairman Silva,
Yes.
you vote yes on that motion to approve the omnibus. I didn't
Okay.
catch it. Yes. Chairman Silva, just say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. We've now got the vote done, and the motion is approved with 5 yes votes, Chairman. So we may proceed now to agenda number 8.
Finally, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded the motion to adjourn. Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Director Irvine,
Yes.
Director Alvarez,
Yes.
Chairman Silva.
Yes.
The motion to adjourn passes with 5 yes votes. We will take a 5-minute break until the start of the December 16th CTA board meeting. Thank you. Good morning. This is Gregory Longini again. We are about to start the December 16th, 2020 Chicago Transit Board regular meeting. Chairman Alvarez, we are set to begin.
Great. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Chicago Transit Board for December 16th, 2020. Would the secretary call the roll?
Yes, Director Miller.
Here.
Director Jakes.
Here.
Director Irvine.
Here.
Director Silva.
Here.
Director Alvarez.
Here.
And we have a quorum of the board, director, with 5 members present. And let the record also show that General Counsel Karen Simons and myself are participating, are in this building, and that President Carter is also participating in this meeting.
Great. Thank you. Our first order of business is public comment. Greg, do we have any today?
No, ma'am. We have no public comment today, but previous correspondence was distributed to the board, and written public comment that I received earlier this week will be distributed to the board.
Great. Thank you very much. Our next order of business today is the approval of the November 18th, 2020 board minutes. The minutes were previously distributed. I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of November 18th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Director Jakes and Director Miller. I'll now take the vote on the minute. Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Irvine?
Yes.
Director Silva?
Yes.
Director Alvarez?
Yes.
The minutes motion is passed with 5 yes votes.
Great. Thank you. Our next order of business is executive session. It is being Karen that there is no executive session today.
That is correct, Vice Chair. No executive session today.
Thank you, Karen. Our next order of business today is board agenda item number 5A, a resolution that will finalize the board's 2021 regular meeting schedule. Since the resolution was previously distributed, I will now entertain a motion to approve a resolution setting the dates of the June, September, November, and December 2021 Chicago Transit Board regular meetings and the time of the November 21st regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I'll take a roll call vote. Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Irvine?
Yes.
Director Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Alvarez?
Yes.
That motion for 5A passes with 5 yes votes.
Great, thank you. Our next order of business today is board agenda item number 5B, a resolution of appreciation for Judge Gloria Chevet. I will now ask Greg to read the resolution.
Resolution of appreciation for Judge Gloria Chevet. Whereas Judge Gloria Chevet has ably served on the Chicago Transit Board since her appointment in 2019, and whereas Judge Gloria Chevet brought to the Chicago Transit Board her vast knowledge and experience, having worked for the Chicago Transit Authority, the City of Chicago, and the Circuit Court of Cook County during her career. And whereas Judge Gloria Chevet has been a consistent rider of CTA buses and trains throughout her long tenured career. And whereas Judge Gloria Chevet brought insight, perspective, and humor to all her official duties serving the board. And whereas Judge Gloria Chevet appreciated and highlighted the many CTA employees who serve the ridership public. Now therefore be it resolved that the members of the Chicago Transit Board extend to Judge Gloria Chevet their sincere thanks for the dedication and foresight she has put at the service of the board and the authority, and they wish her the best in all her future endeavors. Be it further resolved that this resolution be spread of record upon the minutes of this meeting, and that a suitable copy be presented to Judge Gloria Chevet as an expression of both our respect for and our gratitude of her. Thank you.
Well, Greg, I know that she's going to be greatly missed. On behalf of the board, I know that all of us already miss her. And there were a few tears, I think, last month when it was announced that she was going to be leaving. But I know wherever Judge Chevet will go, she will do a fantastic job, just like she did here. From the beginning to to the end. She did full circle here at CTA, but our hearts go with her, and I know, she's going to do great things as always. So thank you. I will now entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
So move.
Second.
The resolution moved by Director Jakes, seconded by Director Miller. I'll now take a roll call vote. Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Irvine?
Yes.
Director Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Rosales?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 5 yes votes.
Thank you, Greg. So our next order of business is a report from the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. Director Silva?
The Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget met earlier this morning via Zoom video teleconference. The committee approved the November 18, 2020 minutes. The committee reviewed the finance report. The committee also reviewed the following 3 ordinances. An ordinance authorizing an experimental university pass, UPass, program agreement with the University of Illinois at Chicago UIC for certain part-time students for the spring 2021 term. An ordinance authorizing an amendment to a sublease between Sterling Racine LLC and Chip Bob Inc. for property located at 120 North Racine Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. An ordinance authorizing an amendment to the Small Business Enterprise SBE program with the authority's Disadvantaged Business Enterprise DBE program. The committee also reviewed 5 purchases and sales award recommendations. The committee approved all items and recommends board approval of all items. The committee placed all 3 ordinances and all 5 contracts on the omnibus. That concludes my report, Chairman Alvaro Rosales.
Thank you, Director Silva. May I now have a motion to approve the omnibus as stated by Director Silva?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Jakes, seconded by Director Miller. And I'll take a roll call vote on the omnibus motion. Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Irvine?
Yes.
Director Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Alvaro Rosales?
Yes.
Well, that motion is approved, ma'am, with 5 yes votes.
Thank you. Our next order of business is the construction report. Bill Mooney?
Morning, directors. Herb.
Morning.
Okay. We'll get going this morning where we usually do with our Urinal Blue Signals project. Herb, if you could advance to the 3rd slide, please. So the project is moving forward. We've had some good gains in the last month. We received in Chicago our 3rd and 4th relay house, the 3rd one being at Central on the Blue Line, which was actually set in place and is in the process of being wired up and prepared for cutover. We also began the cutover at Foster Relay House, which was our 2nd received relay house, and it's the make to Central. And we received Nagel Relay House, which is being prepared to be delivered towards the end of this year, beginning of next year, and set in place. Nagel is kind of just north of, it's in between Jefferson Park and Harlem, kind of at the midpoint. We also did some of the largest civil work on this project, which was a renewal of the track where we call Foster Middle, which is where during the peak Blue Line AM service, we turned trains to be able to facilitate moves and needed service downtown. So this is a heavily used area just north of Jefferson Park. And so we optimized the special track work that allows us to do that move and be able to use it more fluently in the future. If we can move to the next slide, please. So here's the central relay house being craned in place. It's an elevated pedestal house. The old house actually sat on that pedestal. So they actually had to cut out the old house, rehab the pedestal quickly, and then set the new house all in an overnight shutdown. Next slide, please. In this picture, you can see the special track work going in at Central. They're creating in pre-panelized track segments to allow for that movement between the northbound and southbound tracks to this middle track that allows us to move a train out of the way of regular service and reverse its operational direction. Next picture, please. Here's some more of that work going on place. We did this over 2 54-hour weekend single tracks, one for the northbound direction, one for the southbound direction. So you can see here the special track work being wired in on the main line that ultimately connects to that middle track. Go ahead, next slide, please. Here they're installing a thermite weld. I've shown you this on some other track projects we've recently done. This is where we actually melt metal between the two segments of running rail to make a continuous section of running rail. It's a pretty neat operation to see, and it makes for a longer term maintenance piece of work as well as a smoother ride for our customers. Next slide, please. And here they're installing the switch machines that facilitate that train movement from the northbound track to the center track. So our next project is our electric bus en route charging station. This project is quickly coming to a close this year. It remains on budget and tight to schedule. All the work is focused entirely at Navy Pier, as I reported last month that Chicago, Austin, and Chicago Garage have been turned over for operational use. If you can move to slide 10, please. So most of the work at Navy Pier is really about the finishes and the technology at this point. The masts have been installed on site and are in the process of being wired up, which you can see on the picture on the left side of the screen, as well as all the interior finishes, such as the sinks and other faucets, eye wash stations, and other safety features are being prepared inside the building. Next slide, please. Here they're wiring up the pantograph to the mast. This is where the bus will pull up and ultimately make the connection for the quick charging station. Next slide. And here is some finished site work photos. So you can see the landscaping around the building there, some of the finished ornamental work on the building itself, as well as they're pouring kind of the finished concrete around those mast installations. This project is steadily coming to completion. It's getting ready to go into commissioning in the next upcoming weeks and be turned over ultimately for operational use towards the end of this year. Our next project is our transformer replacement, or ultimately traction power upgrades. All the work has been completed at Edmonds in the last month, and the shift is now moved over to Douglas substation for its one transformer replacement. Move to the pictures, please. At Edmonds, we did the last transformer, number 3, in the last month. Here you can see it being set on the pedestal, ultimately to be installed for the substation. In the next slide. And here they are wiring it up, that anode bus that allows it to connect to the equipment inside the building. This project is moving forward on budget and on schedule without any issues, and is looking to come to completion at the beginning of next year. Our next project is our 98th Rail Shop Bridge Deck and Drainage Replacement Project. This has been a wonderfully successful project as it remains on budget and on schedule and moves to completion towards the end of this month. As we finish up on the site, a lot of the work has been just kind of finish work up on that new bridge deck canopy, as well as there was a bunch of remediation to the building exterior due to the water damage to it. So they've been doing window replacement. I've showed you some work around, as well as some grading at ground level for that, and some repair to the tuck pointing of the building. So we move to the photos. Here they are doing ultimately the roofing installation on the bridge deck on this slide, as well as the next photos, please. Here's kind of that finished roof product on that canopy. The next slide shows some of the penthouse doors before and after from the finished products. So what was there kind of in the worn exterior of that building to the new stainless steel, long-lasting life doors that will be able to access that facility for many years to come. Here is some of the ground level demolition of that masonry work that I talked about having to do the rehab on. And next slide. Here's that new brickwork going in at that same location. You can see kind of the above exterior windows. Can you go back one slide real quick? At the top of this, you can see kind of the before those above exterior windows and the damage those windows have taken from that water exposure. And go ahead. And here they are being replaced. They'll be receiving new windows and fully sealed up as part of that. And that concludes my portion of the construction report. I'm glad to take any questions at this time.
Thank you, Bill. Incredible work, especially the rehab. Thanks for pointing out all those details. I don't have any questions, but I'm wondering if the rest of the board does. Director Miller? Might have caught him. Possibly no questions. Director Jakes, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Director Irvine?
No questions.
Okay. Director Silva, do you have any questions? Might have lost the connection there. But I'm thinking no questions either. But once again,
No
Bill,
question, Miller, no question.
no questions. Okay. Director Silva?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Bill, once again, thank you, because again, everything is running smoothly on time and on budget, which is huge, especially during this very difficult time. So thank you so much for that and for the report.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to call now on both Chris Buchel and Juan Pablo Prieto. I know both of them have a separate presentation, but if we could have those presentations on the RPM and on the diversity presentation following that.
Great. Chris Buchel here, your RPM officer. I just want to wish everyone a happy holidays. The RPM project continues tight to schedule, but on budget. As a design build project, design is still very much an effort for us. We have advanced that effort in the main body of the design to about 75% complete. For the main group of designs, the signal design is lagging that. It is about 45% complete. The construction effort continues. We are in the process of putting up some of the major steel components on the bypass. So you have seen us drill caissons, put columns on top of that, prepare those columns for steel, and now the steel is going up. In addition, we have seen various advances on the DG or the overall signal project. We have installed a test area in the revenue track in the area of Clark Junction for the new digital track circuit, a track circuit similar to what Bill's putting in on the blue line, different manufacturer. But we are testing it and it's been successful so far. It's been in service for a while with no issues. Pre-stage work, this is the work to install the interlockings, which you've seen several photographs of, and the signal system ahead of the segmented box girder in the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr segment. That work is wrapping up. We're in the process of commissioning that signal system right now and expect to move into the construction of the major bridges in the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr segment in the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter of next year. And in general, we're in that same segment, we're doing a lot of work on the construction of temporary stations. So that effort is advancing. Herb, if you could advance the slide, please. So as part of the track work that we've done this year to get ready to build that big bridge, segmented box girder bridge in the area of Lawrence to Bryn Mawr, the final major piece of track work that we've done has been to take one of the interlockings, the older version of Thorndale. We put in 2 interlockings this past summer, one at Montrose, replacing an existing one there, and then one at Thorndale. Thorndale really replaces Granville. So we've now come in and taken Granville out of service, and we'll remove the rest of the remnants of that track work as we go into the staged construction associated with the segmented box girder. So you can kind of see here before and after as we've taken out various pieces. We straight railed this area, which means we sort of took out the special work and just put in straight tracks so that we could run through and commission the new signal system. Next slide. We continue on this, I talked about segmented box girder. So you've seen various segments. This is probably the most complex of the segments. Each span that we have up there has sort of end caps on it. This is really the end cap where the tensioning, we put these segments up and then we run tendons or cables through them in order to get the full structural strength. And this is a piece at either end of a particular span where we put anchor those cables in. So it gets a lot of concrete and a lot of steel. It takes a lot of stress at the end of the day. This is how much steel gets into it. And then obviously we pour the concrete around it to create the segment. This is a pier segment. So it sits at either end of each of these individual 100-foot spans. Next. And this is it with all the concrete on it. So you can kind of see how it gets transformed after we bend all the rebar and then pour the concrete around it. And then, of course, this gets set on top of a column in the future in the area of Lawrence to Bryn Mawr. Next. Temporary stations, you've seen these advance in the various photographs I've shown over the past few months. So you can see we're in the process here at the Bryn Mawr temporary station of flying in a piece of platform. So we pre-assemble the platform on the ground and then it gets hoisted into place. Up on the right of way. Next. So I talked a little bit about at the bypass area, the installation of steel. So this photograph is sort of deceptive. That looks like a small piece of steel. It's actually massive. If you see my photograph, you see pieces of the steel behind me in my photograph on the Zoom call. But in any case, we're in the process of putting this steel up in the bypass area and starting to build the platform from which we'll do precast decking on top of that, and then put the track work in after that in the course of the winter and early spring. Next. Cabling, lots of cabling everywhere. This tends to be part of the signaling. In the ballast, we bury it, and the elevated structure, we string it up. So you'll probably see a few pictures of this, but it is a major effort for us and an indication of progress as we advance the work associated with turning the signal system on ahead of doing the segmented box girder Lawrence to Bryn Mawr. Next. Advanced contracts, I'm pleased to say that advanced utilities are in substantial completion. We will continue to do punch lists through the first quarter, mostly just AT&T work. The rest of the utilities are really wrapping up at the end of the year here, so we're pleased with that effort. So this slide will probably last for another month or so as we complete that punch list work into January and February, and then we'll take it out. So I'm pleased to say substantial completion for AUR is part of our achievements over this past year. Advanced utility relocation, AUR. Next. So of course we've been very busy with RPM community outreach. As we put these big pieces of steel in, you can imagine that we need to make sure the community around them is aware that we're bringing these in. They come on very big trucks, and we want to make sure that the community is aware of that, if there's any business impacts, we can mitigate those. So we meet in particular with the ward, the aldermen in and around the bypass, the 44th ward. We did some test work we're driving some piles or we're vibrating some piles into place in the next segment of Lawrence to Bryn Mawr. We tested those out in Evanston, the production and some technical details relative to that. So we met with the folks in Evanston and explained what we were doing. Of course, their major questions are, when are we going to get our RPM? But we deferred those and told them that we were just working on the current phase and coordinated any impacts associated with that. And then, of course, at Granville, we met with that community, the aldermen and various, we did a meeting with the community to explain the impacts associated with that Granville work that I showed you earlier. And then we had an office hours meeting, and otherwise are just working to keep the community informed in a virtual environment of all the construction that's underway. And I know that Juan Pablo has been busy as well, so I can stop here and take any questions before we move on to his presentation.
Thank you, Chris. Do any of the board members have any questions? Director Miller? Hear none.
Director Miller's not on.
He's not on. Okay. We'll get him back on. Director Jakes, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. Director Irvine?
No questions. Just it's exciting to see the steel going in on the bypass. I was on the Brown Line recently, and rare trip on the Brown Line, and it was very cool.
We get a fair amount of community feedback that as people are staying home, instead of impacting them in the case of the assembly of the steel, they all seem pretty interested in it, and it appears periodically on social media as one of the more entertaining things to do during quarantine, to watch the assembly of the bridge. So
Yeah.
Glad we're providing some positive impacts ahead of actually being able to use the bridge and to the advantage of our employees and customers.
Yeah, make sure you give us plenty of advance notice before you move that Travers building.
Oh yeah, we're going to set up some bleachers. I think people really like that.
Very cool.
Yep.
They do.
Thanks.
Director Silva?
No questions.
No questions. Okay, thank you. And I'm not sure if Director Miller is back on. Maybe if he's not, I just want to thank you, Chris, because and I'm on the Brown line, so I agree. Hard work, but also interesting. I think a lot of people sort of are gawk a little bit. They find it very interesting, all the work that's being done. I guess the only question with the signal design, you were saying we're at 45, but that overall won't affect 45% overall. That won't affect anything as far as the project goes, right? You said it.
No, I mean, the fact that those two designs aren't at the same level. I mean, I would certainly, in a perfect world, I would like Signal to be at the same level of completion, if not a little bit more advanced. But signaling is a big challenge. It is a high-tech industry that has seen some impacts due to COVID. In our case, we have recently seen some impacts due to workers who are crews that are working out there having miscellaneous sicknesses. I think we've all probably experienced COVID creeping closer in our personal lives, certainly in the projects. We've seen it, but even back before that, this technology is produced across the world. In our case, we have a lot of the technology comes from Italy that we're installing here. So that, of course, was a country early on that was impacted by it, by COVID. And then just in general, the industry is very tight. There's a fair amount of work, particularly with combining with some of the freight work that's going on, PTC work, and then some of the major transit projects happening on both the coasts. This industry is very tight in general for resources. So I'd like it to be further along. It's not impacting the schedule any more than other major issues that are out there, and we're mitigating those delays to the best of our ability in concert with the contractor.
Right. Thank you.
Chairman Alvarez, could we take a slight pause as we bring Reverend Miller back into the meeting?
We sure can.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Herb, just let us know when Reverend Miller's back in.
Okay, stand by.
Okay.
Greg, we resent the link out, so give it another minute, please.
Fine. Thank you, Herb.
Hello.
I believe that's Director Miller on the phone.
Yes. Hello, yes,
Director Miller's on the phone.
Okay, great.
No video.
Sorry.
Okay, Arabelle.
Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome back, Director Miller.
Thank you. I don't know what happened.
Just wanted to make sure you don't have any questions, or you may have for Chris Buchel. You're all good?
No, I didn't. I'm good. Thanks.
Okay, great. All right, great. Thank you so much. Again, Chris, thanks so much. And then the next presentation will be by Juan Pablo Prieto on diversity.
Thank you, Vice Chair. We continue to hold our monthly meetings with the Prime to discuss workforce and DBE outreach and compliance. As we close out 2020, we have established tentative dates for outreach in 2021, and the contractor continues to identify opportunities for DBEs. The contractor is also working closely with our workforce partners to identify potential hiring needs as work ramps up next year. On November 18th, the Walsh Floor Design Build team served as the guest speaker for the ACE Trades Day hosted by ACE Mentor Chicago. The ACE Mentor Chicago program is an after-school program designed to attract high school students to pursuing careers in architecture, construction, and engineering. This marked the first time ACE Mentor Chicago had done an introduction to the building trades, and about 40 students participated. During the presentation, the Walsh Floor team provided an overview of the RPM Phase 1 project, discussed applying to the building trades, had Chicago Women in Trades and Revolution workshop do a pre-apprentice introduction, hosted a trivia session, and completed an introduction to Walsh and included testimonials from individuals working in the building trades. The presentation also included a virtual tour of the construction site. Also, in closing out the year, CTA, along with the Walsh Floor team and our workforce partners, hosted a virtual DBE and outreach event yesterday. During the event, we presented opportunities for both DBE firms and individuals interested in careers in the building trades. Our workforce partners also presented on the services and resources they offer. We took questions from the participants and provided contact information so everyone could stay connected. We had about 60 individuals attend the event. Although it is not directly related to RPM, I did want to update the board on our small business educational series. As you may remember, we began the small business educational series in 2017 when President Carter wanted to engage small businesses who had not done CTA work for projects that were scheduled on the Green Line. From there, we have run the series annually, focused on different projects such as Your New Blue in 2018 and RPM in 2019. This year, we decided to incorporate the series as a permanent part of our programming, and it is now the CTA Small Business Educational Series. We have also expanded it from a 6-class series to an 8-class series taught by several primes. Given the pandemic, we had to postpone our series from our planned launch in March to later in the year and move the entire series virtually. We graduated 10 firms in November of this year, and we are in the planning stages for our series next year. We look forward to providing updates to the board with our future initiatives. That concludes my portion of the construction report. Happy to answer any questions.
So I have a question. So with regards to those 10 firms that graduated the Small Business Educational Series, the CTA Small Business, that's great. I love that. So what do they come out with? Like what does it say that they've learned? What does that, is it a certificate or something that they got?
We do send them a certificate. They get classes on estimating, on pursuing work, financing, how to invoice, how to market their firm. So different aspects of business, of how to run their business and how to compete for work, specifically public work and CTA work, which can be different than private sector work.
It usually is. Yeah, it usually is. And then you said that there's several firms that are participating, prime firms that are participating in some of these?
Yes, all of our classes are taught by businesses, by contractors. The majority of them are prime contractors that participate on our contracts. We also have 2 small businesses that also teach classes.
And then are these businesses that have never done work with the CTA, or is there a mix now of businesses that have and haven't?
Now there's a mix. The intention when we started in 2017 with the Green Lion series was to focus on firms that had never done CTA work. We still try and target firms that want to move into public work or move into CTA work, but we accept firms that have done CTA work as well.
Okay, and then of the 60 that participated yesterday on the virtual event that you had, are those all new, or are those again a mix?
They were a mix of DBE firms and individuals interested in careers in construction.
Okay, great. Sounds like it's being well received. And again, our communication for that, the vehicles to communicate these different programs.
We regularly use social media, so you'll see them on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. And then we also communicate out via our technical assist agencies and our workforce partners.
Great, thank you. No questions more from me, but I'll ask the directors. Director Miller, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Great. Director Jakes?
No questions.
Director Irvine?
No questions.
Director Silva?
No questions.
Okay, great work by everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Juan Pablo. Appreciate your presentation. So our next agenda item is new business. Greg, do you have any new business?
I do not have any new business, Chairman.
Okay. So I think with no further business to come before the board, I would like to say before I ask for a final motion, just happy holidays to everyone. I think this has been an incredible year, both good and bad, I think, because we've really seen, I know that this team at the CTA, the board, everyone has really stepped it up in a very, very difficult year. And so I think it's been the worst of times, but in many instances, we've seen the best of people, that has come out, just the very best that has come out. And I'm happy that I think that we're ending the year with a lot of hope. I think this vaccine is at least giving people hope that we can get through this, that there's a light at the other end of the tunnel. And I don't know about everybody else, but at least for me, it's really changed my perspective a lot, with regards to what we as humanity can do together and what the things that are really important. Health is so important. I've always been a healthy person, but to put that at the front, I think of everything else, as well as working together. People just have come out to help each other. And I know that so many people are talking about that we're going to come out of this better people, but what being a better person represents, I think, for a lot of us has changed. At least for me, it really represents helping others and being the best that I can be. So I want to thank all of you, because I think everybody has really been the best that they can be at the CTA. So in that light, it's been a great year, and I think we're ending it hopefully with a lot of hope and for good things to come. I don't know if anyone else, before we adjourn, would like to make any comments with regards to the end of the year and wishing everybody a happy year. Any of the directors?
Well, ditto to what you've said. I think you said it well, and I just want to say blessed and happy holiday to everybody. In spite of what we're going through now, we're going to come out it all right. So please, just keeping the faith. Thank all of you.
Thank you, Director. Anyone else?
Director Rosales, I just want to say on behalf of the staff, I want to thank you and all the members of the board for your support of us as we've dealt with this difficult year. And I know that many of you have reached out personally to talk to us about how the employees are holding up during the pandemic and have, really embraced the essential nature of the work that our employees have been doing. And obviously, to say this year has been challenging is probably an understatement. Our employees have really stepped up to the plate and have performed heroically during this year. And I echo your sentiments about next year and seeing it as a ray of light in the future here in terms of what we can expect and hopefully what we can accomplish in an environment where the pandemic starts to recede as the vaccine and the vaccinations increase. But I think we're all very proud of the work the CTA has done, and we're equally proud and happy for all the support that all of you, the board members, have given us. So thank you, and I hope everybody has a very healthy and restful holiday season.
Thank you, President Cardner. And please, I know we only get to see, a lot of times we only get to see the executive staff, but if you could share with everyone else at the CTA, that we're really, really grateful for the great work that's being done. So it helps to move the city forward and keep it going. So that means so much, I think, to so many people. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Well, with no further business to come before the board, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to adjourn moved and seconded. Director Irvine?
Yes, and happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you. Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Silva?
Yes, and Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thank you, sir. And Chairman Alvarez.
Yes, and thank you, and Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year. Thanks, everybody.
Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Hanukkah.